Good afternoon. Click this. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joy Bivens. I am the Deputy County Administrator of Health and Human Services for Franklin County under the Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Kevin Boyce, Commissioner and President Erica Crawley, and Commissioner John O'Grady. Welcome to our virtual Lunch and Learn interim reports required for families receiving SNAP and cash assistance. We are here today to talk about our SNAP interim reports and share with you the vital and important information to our families and residents. In June, the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services informed the county governments, or county agencies rather, that they would allow a federal waiver in place the start of the COVID-19 pandemic to expire as of July 1st. The Ohio Department of Job and Family Services has reinstituted the interim reports for families that receive food assistance through the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, many of you know as SNAP, as well as cash assistance through the Ohio Work First program. The state of Ohio requires all active SNAP participants to complete the interim report halfway through their certification period to confirm they are still eligible for SNAP. So it's like an eligibility requirement where you have to keep ensuring that you are still eligible for the program. That means if your assistance group of our household is certified to receive SNAP for 12 months, your interim report will be due on the 6th month. And if you are certified for 24 months, your interim report will be due on the 12th month. Interim reports are mandatory. Let me reinforce that. These interim reports are mandatory, and failure to complete and return the interim report will result in families and residents not being able to receive their allotments. So I know that is a lot of information, but again, if those interim reports are not done, it can result in residents and families not receiving their SNAP benefits, and those benefits will be terminated. So what does that mean for you today? So today, our Lunch and Learn is focused on SNAP interim reports and how they affect your assistance group and household. We are featuring Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services and the Mid-Ohio Food Collective to help ensure families can continue to survive and thrive. Our conversations today center around, again, SNAP interim reports, the process to complete them, all the administrative processes, the myths, the stigmas, dispelling all the rumors so that there is no disruption in this vital program. Again, this is an important conversation for our residents. And today with us joining on this discussion is no other than Michelle Lindenboom, who is an Assistant Director of Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services, Mike Cochran, Senior Vice President of Communications for the Mid-Ohio Food Collective. Thank you both today for joining us. And I'm just going to jump right into it. So Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into the questions.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Lindenboom, and I'm one of the Assistant Directors with Job and Family Services. I've been with the agency for 30 years. So SNAP is near and dear to my heart. So this is a very important lunch and learn so residents and families can understand what the impact of the interim reports will be moving forward. I'm very excited about today's lunch and learn.
Thank you, Michelle. Mike Cochran, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get right to the questions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Cochran, Senior Vice President of Communications for Mid-Ohio Food Collective. I've spent almost 15 years in the public and nonprofit space in health and human services. And at Mid-Ohio Food Collective, I'm responsible for our government relations, media engagement, and our volunteer services team, all in work to help co-create healthy, hunger-free communities.
Okay, so now that we've got the introductions out of the way, again, we want to make sure that we educate our residents and families on the importance of SNAP and the interim reports and how it affects their family and the services that they receive. So Michelle, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us, what does Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services do, and who are the residents you service?
Sure. So Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services provides timely public assistance benefits and builds community partnerships. So we probably touch the lives of about a quarter of Franklin County residents. So we have around 426 1,000 people on Medicaid, 163 SNAP recipients, 9,000 TANF, and we also do publicly funded childcare. So we, cover a plethora of the residents. We serve the most vulnerable, low-income residents. So we are a very important entity and organization to the well-being, especially for SNAP benefits for our residents, the supplemental nutrition program to add value and nutrition to our residents' lives. We've served families, children, disabled population, the elderly. So a big gamut of our residents in Franklin County.
And Mike, I'm going to give you the same question. Listening to Michelle, I know that, I consider food to be medicine and, health is wealth. So Mike, can you tell us, what does the Mid Ohio Food Collective do and who are the residents that you service in your organization?
Absolutely. Thank you, Joy. So Mid Ohio Food Collective is that backbone organization for our emergency feeding system in Franklin County and actually across 20 counties across Ohio. A lot of people know us as Mid Ohio Food Bank. And we are the largest food bank in Ohio, but we do more than just traditional food banking. And we know that traditional food banking alone doesn't end hunger unless, your definition of ending hunger means making sure somebody has a meal on their table today. So while we work across those 20 counties, most of it's done through agency partners, food pantries, soup kitchens, that sort of thing. Almost 2/3 of our work is in Franklin County. We serve families, individuals, seniors, families with kids, veterans, at and below 200% of the federal poverty level. So a lot of overlap with the same families that probably are coming to Franklin County Job and Family Services for help. And the scale of our work is just huge. It speaks to how much food is a critical need and an issue for so many families. Last year, our fiscal year just wrapped up, we helped put food on the table of almost 380,000 Franklin County residents.
Wow.
That's individual, unique residents. It's almost 3 out of every 10 of our neighbors. Many of those families just came for help one time, but what it shows is just the need for food is really is something that we can all relate to. And so many of us are one bad day, one bad thing away from needing some help. So those supports, whether it's SNAP, food pantries, and some of those other benefits that help support families are just so important to make sure that our families can survive and to thrive.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And the impact that the Mid Ohio Food Collective makes in our community is just, you just can't put a value, just a value on it just because it's so vital. Michelle, I know when I was growing up, I heard my grandparents and other people in the community talk about food stamps, because that's what people knew SNAP to be, was food stamps. We now call it SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Can you give us a brief overview of what SNAP is and how residents qualify to receive food assistance?
Sure. So SNAP helps low-income families meet their basic needs of food and nutrition, but by providing monthly amounts. It's to help families supplement what they already have. And it's to help them purchase nutritious foods, to supplement what they already have. A family or a resident would come in to the Job and Family Services, apply online. How SNAP is determined is based on the number of people in a household, the income that is brought in, the shelter expenses that is paid. So for example, a family of 3 with 0 income would receive they would receive $658. So basically a family of 3 has to make less than $28,000 a year to qualify for assistance. So it's based on the federal poverty level of 130% or lower. So basically, you would complete an interview over the phone, and then you would qualify for the benefits, and then you would receive a monthly stipend on a card, which is called an EBT card, that you would take to the grocery store, and then you would be eligible to purchase, food with that card. So that is the overview of the SNAP.
So Michelle, let me ask you this. So I come into, or I can apply for SNAP online, right?
Yes.
And once I apply online, there's an interview, and then, I can expect to receive my SNAP benefits within how many days?
You would have either the expedited or within 30 days. So we would process your benefits accordingly based on the category that you would be eligible for. And then a card is mailed to you through the mail. If you already have a card and you happen to just fall off the benefits, then we would reinstate the benefits with the same card.
Okay, so that card doesn't come from Franklin County, it comes from somewhere else, correct?
No, it's actually a third-party vendor, so we do not have any ties with the third-party vendor. It is not through Franklin County. It is a statewide system. I think it's actually in Texas, maybe, where the card comes from. So
Okay.
if the card gets locked, then the resident has to call the provider or the vendor to get their card unlocked.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And then, so Mike, how does the Mid-Ohio Food Collective, how do you complement the SNAP? How does your organization complement the SNAP program? Do you all process SNAP benefits as well? Like, what role do you play in complementing or assisting with this SNAP initiative? Or
Yeah,
SNAP, sorry.
thank you, Joy. So a couple things there. First, as Michelle just shared, there's a whole process that residents go through in order to be eligible and receive their SNAP benefits. And we know that the caseworkers at Job and Family Services help process those every day, but sometimes residents still have questions. These processes can be, especially if somebody's new, they can be something, some challenges. People might need some guidance on how to make sure that they're getting the benefits that they're entitled to, right? So one of the things that we do with Mid-Ohio Food Collective is we have a SNAP and benefits outreach team. And so they are out in the community, just like some folks from Franklin County HHS are, but we'll be out in the community at places, at some of the pantry partners, Columbus Public Health, and helping people to navigate through some benefits, answering questions, maybe assist them with guidance on kind of how to complete the application themselves so that they can get access to those benefits. So we know that's a really important complement. To make sure that the applications, that people have the right information, they know about what they need to submit, that they can do it correctly, takes the burden off the county, but most importantly, make sure the family can get the help that they need and that they're eligible for. So I think that's one piece. Another piece that's really important is even in this time where we still have some of the COVID era things happening, where allocations, the monthly amount that families receive from SNAP is higher than it would be in normal circumstances. We know with inflation, we'll talk about what that's doing to families in a little while. But we know that SNAP is not itself, doesn't cover everything. Right. So SNAP benefits can't be used for personal care items. So if you need soap, you need shampoo, feminine hygiene products. So women can go to work and girls can go to school. We want to talk about, toothbrush, deodorant, things that people need in order to go to work. Well, SNAP benefits don't actually provide that. And so one of the things that we try to do through Mid-Ohio Food Collective is to source some of those personal care products. It's harder right now, but that's an important piece where the services complement each other. And the last thing I think I would say, we know, Michelle shared what that eligibility level is. A family of three that makes $29,000, that doesn't go very far, especially when you look at rent, you look at the price of gas, childcare, and then, going to the grocery store and getting, just getting food. So we know that for a lot of those families that we serve overlap with a lot of the families that Michelle shared that Job and Family Services serves. And so we also are there when life happens, when they need help, whether it's one time or on somewhat of an ongoing basis. One of the big things we do is focusing a lot on fresh, healthy produce. We know when you go to the grocery store, there's not a lot of money in the shopping budget. The first thing that goes out of the shopping cart is, these peaches look great, but I got to make sure I got breakfast,
Mike,
right?
It's expensive.
It's so expensive. And so we know that, as Joy, you mentioned before, food is health. And we know that whether it's a child in early years of development who's trying to learn and grow, or for adults with chronic health conditions, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, that consistent access to fresh, healthy food is a high value, low cost health strategy too. So we really focus on making sure that fresh, healthy produce, fruits and veggies, those sorts of things are available so that families have access to the help that they need, whether it's through SNAP or outside and wrapping around that to make sure that they can meet their basic needs.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And, we're going to get into the interim reports, but before we do that, I want to talk just a little bit about some of the stigmas that are attached to families and residents that receive SNAP. I remember growing up, and this was, and I'm going to date myself when I say this, but I remember, Michelle, the booklets that they were food stamps, and they were different colors, but I think they were different colors. And I remember people in our, even our family, using those, and people were ashamed to have to use that. And, I know kids growing up, used to make fun of other people who had to use those SNAP benefits. And because there was a stigma back then that, if you had that, then, if you had to use food stamps and you were poor. It seems now, though, unfortunately, everyone is at a stressor, and poverty, we're now accepting that everyone is a paycheck away. And I think we've matured some. But what are some of the other stigmas that you all believe that are attached to the SNAP program and that could possibly prevent someone who really needs these services from applying?
So Joy, I am glad that you mentioned that, because when I started 30 years ago, you would have to go to Central Point to pick up your booklet, and you would stand in line and you'd have to rip out the, food stamps based on how much everything was. So, the SNAP program has come a long way with the card readers. It looks like a debit card.
Yep.
So people aren't knowing what you're using. So you could be using a debit card or an EBT card. So, people aren't embarrassed anymore to come through our doors. I can also tell you that our numbers during the pandemic have, increased tremendously.
Yep.
And everyone is one paycheck away. So I think we're trying to take the stigma away. And another thing is 86% of our recipients on SNAP are elderly, disabled, or children. They are working. So this is a true supplemental program to get the nutrients that children need. There's been studies that, of development with people and children who aren't getting the nutrients that they need. So it's like you can go in there and feel like a human being and be able to provide food for your family. And just with the way the economy is now, they're saying on average, a family spending $800 more a month just on living. So the SNAP program is even more important as we move forward with what is going on right now. It would be, it's a detriment if the residents aren't getting just the supplement from the SNAP program. So they have come a long way with the stigmas, but it's very much working people coming through our doors or our phone lines. We also have first-time recipients. We have people who never have known what a food stamp is. Now they know what SNAP is, but they also, and even residents we've talked to, like, oh, this is what the SNAP program does. So it's just trying to educate everyone out there about really what the program is.
Yeah. And Mike, I know that the Middle Ohio Food, we used to call it the food pantry. You all have become very innovative and creative in your branding, and just called the Middle Ohio Collective. And you all don't use pantries anymore. The terminology has changed. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Joy. So Mid Ohio Food Collective for 40 years, founded in 1980, we're known as the Mid Ohio Food Bank. And so from 1984 through 2020, that's what we were known as. And so before, traditional food banking alone doesn't end hunger. We can help make sure we get food on someone's table today, but really addressing that means getting to the root causes of what drives families there. So I want to echo what Michelle was talking about a minute ago about this shared vulnerability. And I think that's actually a benefit when it comes to addressing stigma. We do a lot of work to be strengths-based, to be welcoming. Our Mid-Ohio markets, which are really these highly accessible, dignified grocery store experiences. We just opened our signature market over on the far west side, over on Norton Road earlier this spring, and it is beautiful. It's nicer than the grocery store I go shop at. And if you had a family that comes in there, a kid, they might come through and never realize that they've been to a food pantry. We want it to be welcoming. We want it to be like a grocery store. And in those locations, we can wrap services around them. And so when we look at our assets, the Mid Ohio Farm, teaching agricultural, learning and how to grow food for your own family. The pharmacy is our Food is Health platform. The kitchen, Mid Ohio Kitchen, we work with early childhood providers, after school programs, senior centers, the YMCA for the shelter system to help provide food. And then those markets, which are really those wraparound service hubs built around food. All of those are ways that we are addressing these challenges, because families, so many families are facing this. Early in the pandemic, when life happened to so many of us, we would see families that would drive through our on-site distribution in Grove City that would come through in a really nice car. They maybe, come through an Lexus or something. And people are like, what are you doing here? And the answer is, well, life happened. We had this, 2 good jobs and everything was great. And then, things happen. Someone gets sick.
People lost their jobs.
You lost your job. You lost your house. Your house is now a beautiful Lexus. And that's, it's a hard thing for people to wrap their head around sometimes. But we still see that shared vulnerability today, that this is families that find themselves, facing food insecurity. That's not about them. That's about the system in which we all work. Apologies. Gloria is needed. So as we, Michelle mentioned that, every family is facing these rising costs every month. We know that there's data research that before the pandemic, 40% of our community couldn't pay a $400 emergency bill. And the next 20% would have to borrow from someone to pay it. And now Michelle just shared, every month families have to come up with that and find it. So we really, through our work, yes, we do still have pantries. Our partner agencies are some of the pantries. There's one food bank and several hundred distribution points, pantries, soup kitchens, and the like. But really, it's about making sure that families know we're building the systems to help you out when life happens. And whether that's our assets and operations with the food collective and pantries, and then also the government programs like SNAP that are there for people when they need them. And it really is just, about making sure people know how to access what they need. And to know that this is a community that supports you in getting to what you need, because we all fare better. We have healthier communities, we have more prosperous communities. We say hungry kids can't learn and hungry workers can't earn. So it is in everyone's benefit that you and your family and your neighbors and the people you run into on the street, that everyone has their basic needs met. And food is where we start.
Absolutely. And we're going to start talking about the interim reports. But before I do, I want to touch on a stat that Michelle threw out. Michelle, did you say 86% of our 163,000 residents who receive SNAP are senior citizens and children?
Yes.
And they are working or going to school, right? For the collective whole.
Yes, and disabled.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing it. I think as a community, I pause on that stat because those are the residents we need to make sure that we understand for this program, why it is so vital. We want kids to grow up healthy. We want them to thrive, and we want our seniors to do as well as everyone, but particularly our most vulnerable residents. And I heard Mike use the term market. And I know that there is a stigma sometimes attached to the word pantry, but regardless, market, pantry, whatever the word, the resource is there for all of our families in Franklin County. Just really quick, we're getting a lot of questions about that emergency allotment. It's, I believe, Michelle, is PEBT, if I'm correct, if I'm using the correct terminology. If I'm not, I want you to correct me.
No, it's not PB. It's not the PEBT. No.
Which one is it, Michelle? Oh, no, it's not.
It's the emergency.
It's the emergency. I'm sorry. It's the emergency. I apologize. I'm getting it all discombobulated. But you all are asking, when those uploads, when will they take place? I believe those are scheduled to be uploaded by the state of Ohio today. And families should be able to have access to those emergency SNAP allotments by tomorrow. So again, the state of Ohio, not the Franklin County, should be able to give you access to those tomorrow, and they should be uploaded by the state today. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes. So just a little history on the emergency allotment. So during the pandemic, residents were brought up to the maximum amount based on their size. So for example, if you had a reduced amount as a family of 3 and you didn't receive the $658 every month, the state of Ohio downloaded, uploaded, however they did, got the residents up to the $658 during the public health emergency. And if you were already at the maximum or close to it, you received an additional $95. So our residents and families have been, seeing this for 2 years. So basically, sometimes the uploads were delayed, but we have been told, we received an email today that they should be available tomorrow. Now, an important thing to note is once the public health emergency is over, most likely, so will the emergency allotment. So this is huge because, even in the way the world is now, with the example before of every family spending $800. Even if you can budget, inflation has happened, the economy, so it's very hard to budget. So our residents will lose the extra emergency allotment that probably wasn't even enough in the first place, but it was a supplement. So now we have to, see what's going to happen with that, but they should be available tomorrow.
So those emergency allotments should be available tomorrow and uploaded by this. Should have access to them tomorrow. But Michelle brought up a really good point. With when the public health emergency is lifted, if it is and when it will be lifted, that maximum allotment will end. So you will go back to whatever your standard allotment is. And we understand that gas is very expensive, milk is very expensive, eggs are very expensive. However, this is a federal and state policy that we must adhere to under Franklin County governance. So we want to make sure that everyone knows, but right now it is not. You can still receive your maximum allotment, and again, you would have access to that tomorrow. And speaking of SNAP, here we are, the interim reports. So interim reports are almost like a redetermination if you qualify. We have not had to do those in 2 years, right, Michelle and Mike?
Nope.
And now we have to do them again. Can you kick us off, Michelle, and talk about how does the mandate of the interim report affect families who receive the SNAP benefits?
Right. So as Joy explained, it is like a redetermination midway through during the 6-month period. So you only complete one face-to-face or phone interview in a year, but this is a 1-page document that a resident will receive in the mail the month prior to the 6th month. And there's time frames, like on the 1st of the month, you'll get it. By the 15th, you'll get a next notice. So there's several notices. It must be completed. You must attach verifications if it asks if you're supposed to attach verifications. And most importantly is the interim report must be signed. So the county cannot complete an incomplete interim report. So basically what will happen is if it's not completed, the SNAP benefits will automatically terminate. And then if the resident comes in within or contacts us within 30 days, we can reinstate within the 30-day period. If it's after the 30-day period, then we have to go through the whole interview again, and it's like a churn. So it's very important that when residents and families receive letters from Job and Family Services, that they do open those letters. Also, if you have moved, it's very important that you update your address. We can fill out the interim reports on our self-service portal. You can drop them off at any local JFS or you can mail them in. And also, as was mentioned, we have not done these in 2 years, which is twofold. So we've hired a lot of staff who have never done interim reports. So we've had to train our staff on how to process the interim reports. We also have residents who had done interim reports, but haven't done them for 2 years. So I know I would forget what an interim report is if I'm not used to doing one. And then the third part is we have new residents on that have never done an interim. They don't even know what an interim is because we haven't discussed it because we haven't had to do it. So at Job and Family Services, along with our community partners, we're trying to get everyone on board with all the HHS agencies, trying to educate since we all serve similar families. So we're trying to not make this burdensome on the residents. We're also trying to do some outreach. So if we know we have 5,000 interims due in the month of July, mid-month, we can run a report to see who's returned, who hasn't, and we can do some outreach, some targeted outreach. And so residents are not falling off the rolls, because if you have never done something, you don't know what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Mike, with the interim reports, so Michelle brought up, I want to call out several things. If you're receiving SNAP benefits and you receive a letter in the mail from Job and Family Services, you need to open the letter, complete the form, because if you do not, you are at risk of your SNAP benefits being terminated based upon that interim report not being completed. If your address has changed, please make sure that you let the Job and Family Services know that your address has changed so that we can get that form out to you so that there is no disruption in benefits. And Mike, as we are thinking about the potential repercussions of this interim report, these interim reports coming in or not coming in, I see that possibly being an initial workload on our pantry, because if my services are disrupted, then I'm coming to the Middle Ohio Food Collective for help, right?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So we know nationally, so we're the local food bank member from Feeding America. Nationally, for every one meal that food pantries and food banks provide, SNAP provides 9 meals. So I think the first thing I would say is that we cannot absorb, if SNAP, that's just how important SNAP is, just as an essential part of our community, state, national strategy to make sure that nobody goes hungry. That's how important SNAP is. And so we are already looking at absolutely record, unprecedented levels of need for food assistance in this community, especially in Franklin County. We're seeing demand that's far above anything we saw during the early days of the pandemic, higher than we've ever seen. And that's mostly a result of inflation. Michelle mentioned before when she talked about the 85% of people who are either seniors, children working, our region's unemployment rate is about as low as it's ever been. So the question is not, do people need to get jobs? No, people have 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs. The issue is just making sure that you have everything you need to put food on the table. And so making sure that our neighbors have access to the information that they need, and understand what it is they need to do in order to maintain some really vital assistance. And that's just so important, because we already just have so many people who need help. And so when you look at either people whose benefits could be disrupted if they're not able to complete interim reports, or especially when we look ahead to the potential end of the public health emergency, what would that mean for some of our neighbors? You could be looking at right now a senior citizen who lives alone who's getting $255 a month, who might be getting $21 a month in food assistance after the public health emergency ends. We're scared about that. Right. No question. So we need people advocating to, especially to our federal leaders, to members of Congress, to talk about how important it is. But in the meantime, we're looking at these interim report needs right now. We know, just as we have so many new first-time families coming to our system for help, there are so many people, like you mentioned, who either have never done interim reports before, or at the very least haven't in a few years. And so in addition to all of that information, that directed targeted outreach, which is such a good idea, to directly contact people who haven't filled it out and say, hey, want to make sure here's what you need to do and here's how we do it. I mentioned before our SNAP and benefits outreach team, who are out in the community, coordinating, working closely with JFS's outreach team to find locations to meet community customers where they are, to help navigate the process, even using our language line every day to assist limited English proficiency individuals who may have some communication challenges. I know JFS does this as well, but it's about creating as many channels and opportunities as we can for residents to navigate a process, to make sure they have the information they need so they can keep taking care of themselves and their families, and they can keep learning, they can keep working, and we can keep our seniors safe and healthy in the community.
Awesome. And thank you, Mike, for that. I want to reinforce again, for those emergency allotments, those should be uploaded today by the state of Ohio. You should have access to those emergency allotments by tomorrow. Michelle Lindeboom, Director Lindeboom, just said that we received communication today from the state. Those emergency allotments should be available tomorrow. But as it relates to interim reports, and I cannot reinforce this enough, because we want to make sure that mamas and daddies and aunties and uncles and grandparents and all of our residents in Franklin County can continue to receive their food assistance. If you receive any benefit from Franklin County Job and Family Services, especially food assistance, we need you to open your mail. And I know life gets ahead of us, because I am really bad, Mike and Michelle, about opening my mail, because everything is automated. So I feel like if you want to get in contact with me, that means you were either sending me a text, or there's an email that you sent me to remind me, or automatically debited, or whatever. However, this is not that sophisticated process. There is a letter that is going out. It is an interim report. It is asking you to fill that out, to drop it off at any of the locations at Job and Family Services in Franklin County. We have one on the west side on Wilson Road, one on the east side on Mount Vernon Avenue, and one on the north side on Northland Park Avenue off of Morse Road. Please make sure that your address, you have updated your new address if you have moved in the last 2 years. Please make sure that you complete the interim report to its entirety. Please make sure that you submit the interim report in a timely manner so that there is no disruption in your food assistance. Please, we are asking the community, if you know someone, maybe you're not the person receiving food assistance, but you know someone. We want everyone to share this information. Please fill out those interim reports because we want to make sure there is no disruption in those resources. The other thing I want to touch again on is Director Linda Boom. She talked about the maximum allotments during the pandemic. Everyone's receiving the maximum allotments. When the public health emergency is lifted, the maximum allotments will not be approved. You will go back to whatever your approval rate is, so that is not a shock to you. So we want to make sure that we have reinforced that message as well. But I wanna, if we could, can we pivot a little bit, you all? And I want to see, are there any questions from the audience that I am not seeing, because our communications people that are behind the walls are letting me know who's saying what? Am I missing anything? Is there anything I need to touch on? But I want to make sure that we answer the questions as they come in. Do we have any questions from our communications team, from our residents that we need to touch on? I think you all did a really good job.
Joy, I just want to give a plug for the self-service portal. So within Ohio Benefits, for our residents on public assistance, if you sign up for the self-service portal, you can check your case status. You can complete your interim report actually online with the self-service portal, and you can receive text messages and other things. So it is a pretty easy process to fill out the self-service portal. So that would really benefit our residents to be able to, receive, like if I just got something from AEP that my bills due because I signed up for like a text service.
Yeah.
So you'll receive reminders, and that might help with the interim reporting. So I just wanted to give that plug.
So the self-service portal, if you have access to technology, and technology is your friend, and that is your main mechanism for communicating with the world, as it all is for many of us. However, we understand it's not for some. How do I get to that self-service portal? Is it on a website? Is it a text that I tap into?
It is on a website, and we can, make sure that that's published on our Facebook page.
Okay. So we will get that website to you, because I'm always given the wrong website, Mike, because it's www. And I'm getting it now. If you ask for it, they will give it to you. I wish I could pull it up on the screen. But it is SSSP samsampaul.benefits.ohio.gov. ssp.benefits.ohio.gov. You can go on to that self-service portal and do all the things that Michelle just talked about. Check eligibility. You can change your address on that self-service portal too, Michelle.
I believe so.
Okay. So please make sure if technology is your mechanism for communicating and getting things done, please go to that website and utilize it so that you can get what you need as far as it relates to your benefits. My last, I know we're probably about 45 minutes in, and I wanted to share, just allow you to, any final thoughts that you feel that we need to touch on before we wrap up. And I'm going to start with you, Mike.
Thank you, Joy. This is time I can get up on my soapbox, right?
Yes.
So first, just a couple things. We're mostly talking about SNAP today, but we know as part of our food is health strategy, health is health too. And so we want to make sure that in addition to the over 420 some thousand residents who are on Medicaid, we know when the public health emergency ends, we're going to have a lot of our neighbors who may need to have some help figuring out how to make sure that they continue to be covered with their health care. Mid-Ohio Food Collective does serve as healthcare navigators as well. Many on that same SNAP benefits outreach team also serve in that role. So if you are now or in the future are trying to navigate a healthcare landscape, our team can help out with that as well. So first, I just want to put a plug in there. You can find us at our website, mofc.org, or directly give a call to our benefits outreach team at 614-782-5503. So
Awesome.
first of all, health is health, so we got to start there. Two more things. One, we are seeing, as I mentioned before, just record levels of demand. More and more of our neighbors need help. Last month in June alone, we served families in Franklin County over 85,000 times across our service network, just in Franklin County alone. And that is above anything we've ever seen before.
Wow.
So it's our job as a food collective, as a food system, is to figure out how to meet that need. But I will say that, with supply chain issues and inflation, making sure that we have all the food that we need in order to meet that need is something we're working really hard on. So we're grateful for our private and public partnerships, but we are continuing to look to knowing that really solving that problem requires additional support, particularly looking at what the state of Ohio can do to make sure that we're able to keep our neighbors fed and healthy throughout the summer, fall, and the months to come. So I need to say that. And the last thing I want to put in is our work wouldn't be possible without an incredible base of volunteers across our community. That in order to do everything we do, we need almost 1,000 volunteers every single week in order to process and sort the food, to man our pantry, to help serve residents and customers at the Mid-Ohio market, and many, many more things in our kitchen, helping make sure kids are fed through summer feeding. So I just want to say, for anyone who maybe wants to figure out how they can help and contribute to making sure that their neighbors and their communities have access to the food that they need, please share out the information we've been talking about today. But if you have some time and hours that you can spare to help out your neighbors, you can go to mofc.org and click volunteer. We have opportunities 6 days a week, mornings, afternoons, evenings, weekends. We would love your help because together, that's how we're going to fight hunger in this community.
Thank you, Mike. Michelle?
The only thing is to piggyback on Mike, what Mike said. I know this is about our SNAP program, but just as he mentioned regarding Medicaid or health. So as a public health emergency, when the public health emergency ends, our residents are also going to have to do recertifications for Medicaid, which they haven't had to do. So during the public health emergency, we did not terminate Medicaid benefits, except for there was a few reasons we could. Right, someone moved, passed away, there was 3 criteria. But other than that, so on top of the interim reporting, residents are now going to have to complete a recertification for Medicaid. So that's very important, as was stated, that we have updated addresses and that correspondence from Job and Family Services. I know the state sends a lot of correspondence. Sometimes letters are a little confusing, but just to encourage everyone to open their mail. And I was very excited to be a part of this. I think this is a very important topic, especially because, we all are affected by, SNAP nutrition and Medicaid, but I look forward to working with partners and in the community as we are all serving the same residents. So I love to see all the organizations coming together, especially the Health and Human Services agencies. So it's a very exciting time for Franklin County at this point. I know there's a lot going on, but I think collectively we can make a difference to the residents we all serve.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Mike. And I wanted to just really quickly touch on something. Many times when people come in to apply for particularly SNAP benefits, right, there is a certain dollar amount based on a certain family size. And what we take is we look at your income, we look at, all these indicating eligibility requirements. And then an assessment is made based on the information I received that lets us know how much SNAP benefit that an individual or a family will receive. That is based on the federal poverty level. So I want everyone to understand, I'm seeing some questions regarding, how do we increase it? How do we maintain it? And, that is a federal rule. That is a federal poverty level. There are policies that are put in place that we must adhere to. Franklin County is a state, is supervised by the state of Ohio. Our dollars come from the front feds to the state and filter down to the county. And we adhere to federal and state policy. If for the questions that were submitted regarding increasing SNAP allotments, I would say that is reach out to your congressperson. And I think Mike can better talk about this, and I can reach out to your congressperson because I have to be very neutral in this conversation. We have no control over changing the amount of SNAP allotments just because it's out of our jurisdiction. However, you as residents can reach to your congresspeople to talk about the federal poverty level and how those benefits are determined. Right, Mike?
That's absolutely right. So what we know is these are all based on formulas that we don't control at the local level. What we do at the local level, though, is help select those leaders who are going to represent us in the halls of Congress, who help make these policies.
Yeah.
So while we are a nonpartisan organization. We will work with anyone and everyone who will help make sure that residents and families in the communities where we serve. And again, that's 20 counties in central and eastern Ohio, all the way out to the West Virginia border. But we work to make sure that people understand why it's so important that these programs are in place, why SNAP is just absolutely essential as part of the fabric of our community to make sure that kids are healthy, seniors can live safely and age in place, and that our communities are healthier and safer. So absolutely, we have an advocacy team and an advocacy newsletter where we send out opportunities on how people can engage and help lift up the importance of these programs. And yes, absolutely, your voice matters. So we encourage you all to help join us in talking about what it's going to take to end hunger in Franklin County and beyond.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mike. Tomorrow I will be posting a video just with some key bullet points of reminders of the interim reports, what needs to happen, reminding people about their address changes if they've changed their address, as well as where to drop these interim reports off. I just appreciate the partnership with the Mid-Ohio Food Collective. Thank you, Michelle Lindeboom, for your leadership at Job and Family Services. There's lots of changes, lots of things going on, but we are here to not just be government, but to be active participator and partners in assisting our community in navigating, especially our most vulnerable, and navigating through some of our most difficult times, but also throughout life. So thank you again. My name is Joy Bibbins. I am the Deputy County Administrator of Health and Human Services for Franklin County. Under the Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Kevin Boyce, Commissioner and President Erica Crawley, and Commissioner John O'Grady, I oversee Job and Family Services, Office on Aging, Justice Policy and Programs, as well as child support. And our job, again, is to make sure that services are accessible and that they are seamless for our residents. So thank you all again. And I don't believe, I'm going to ask the people behind the curtain, is there anything that we need to touch on from the people behind the curtain? I don't see anything. And if they are, they're not typing fast enough for me. So I'm going to oh, yes. How could I forget? Thank you, Bart. If you are looking for a job, Franklin County is hiring. So we are looking for case managers in Job and Family Services, Office on Aging, Justice Policy Program, I believe, has a couple positions open, as well as child support. We have also we have trade opportunities in our PFM departments. If you are looking for a career opportunity, we are asking you, please join the Franklin County team. Why should you join the Franklin County team? We have tuition reimbursement, meaning if you want to go to school, get anywhere from a bachelor's degree to a PhD, you might as well go ahead and just join Franklin County and invest your career here until you get all your degrees. We would love to have you. So please, you can go on to our, I think the link is in the chat. You can go into the Franklin County Board of Commissioners and look for career opportunities. But we are looking for some good qualified staff. We have all types of positions open. Please consider Franklin County. Again, there are so many benefits, health insurance, time off. What is it, Michelle? Paid time leave. Is that what it is?
Yeah, paid family leave. Yeah,
paid family leave, which is really, really important. Paid family leave, vacation time. What else, Michelle? Health insurance.
Incentive wellness programs. I mean, obviously, I've been here 30 years. It's a wonderful place to work. It has a lot of benefits, and actually, it is very helping residents is wonderful too. So, I mean, it's great all around place to work in Franklin County, not just Job and Family Service, but any Board of Commissioner agency.
So if you have ever had to work with any of our agencies in any capacity and said, you know what, I could do that job better. You know what, you probably could. That's why I'm asking. Please make sure you go into that website and apply. We want good people who care about people. So please make sure you go into that chat. And I don't know if it's on there, Bart, and I don't see it, but I believe it is on the Franklin County Board of Commissioners website. and look for career opportunities. Mike, I know I did my shameless plug. Do you have any plugs other than volunteerism for?
Well, I was going to say that you should come work at Mid-Ohio Food Collective, but as a former county employee, I can say they're both incredible places to serve your community and your neighbors and help make a better place to live. So absolutely, I would just say again, on the volunteer side in particular, that we really welcome individuals, groups, businesses, churches, school groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, you name it. It really, we've got Hunger Action Month is the month of September. And this year our theme is that ending hunger takes all of us. And it's really true that it takes not only incredible individuals and the agency partners we work with, but it's volunteers and it's community partners too. Yep. So I just need to put in a thank you that I know the relationship between Franklin County and Mid-Ohio Food Collective stretches back a really long time. And so both in difficult times addressing crises, but also building for the future to make sure we're building systems centered in accessibility and dignity for our residents and customers. That's just really, that's how we do what we do. So thank you for having us. Again, go to mofc.org, look for volunteering. There's also some great career opportunities. We have great benefits and start pay at $18 an hour. So we're proud of being able to help support our workers who are supporting families. If anyone has any other questions, please reach out to us. We're happy to help.
Thank you, everyone. Again, please, during the pandemic, we ask you, as we are still in the pandemic, I know people say we're transitioning out. There's still some mask requirements out there for some of our most vulnerable. So we're asking everyone to please be safe, be well, and thank you so much for joining us for our Lunch and Learn.